Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Friday, and it is August the 1st, and we are doing a special edition of our Friendly Friday, which means that we have FBI whistleblower Steve Friend, author, indispensable contributor to our program, and regular Friday guest. And we also have my very special friend, the most cynical, but not for bad reasons, but because he has the most experience, the most cynical of the Suspendables crew. That's George Hill. He is a former intelligence analyst and supervisory intelligence analyst with the NSA and the FBI, and he spent 26 years in military intelligence as well. So he's got all that intelligence, and it knocked all of his hair out. So we're going to have George Hill join us shortly. We'll have a good time with this, but I think you guys are going to get the most important discussion about what happens when the HOPIUM runs out. America right now, particularly on the political right, has been telling us tick-tock, lawyer up, justice is coming, the storm is brewing. I even saw Michael Flynn saying something ridiculous like that yesterday. General Michael Flynn was making that kind of a post. And I want to do a first quarter analysis. And by first quarter, I mean we're 6 months into the Trump administration, almost to the day. And we're looking at, we got 3 more 6 months periods before the midterms. And this might be all you get. And oftentimes that is the case. So that's where we're going to go with today's program. I've got a couple of videos. Who knew that watching the Kyle Seraphin Show would give you a preview into what the White House was actually doing? Yes, we talked about WWE the other day, and that a lot of what the Trump administration does is this professional wrestling type attitude. They straight up brought a professional wrestler into the White House, I guess because they're going to do something about fitness. Something like that. All right. Before we get too deep into the weeds, let me just tell you that my desk is littered with Patriot coolers. You guys, this is the one that I take with me everywhere I go. It's a 40 ounce. It has a massive handle. It would double as a weapon, as actually a sharp and somewhat dangerous, what do you call this? Straw. If you were to go and stab your little kids with it, which my kids try to grab it while I'm walking and they put their face on it and stab themselves. This is an awesome piece of equipment. It's 40 ounces. It's bigger than I thought I would need, and I absolutely love it. If you guys have not checked out the Major, go ahead and look that up and decide whether you want one that is custom laser engraved or whether you want one that's just straight in color. 40 ounces of freedom, keeps your beverage hot or cold. It is an outstanding tool. It allows you to drink it out of the lid. You can use the straw. You can pull the straw out, and it'll actually seal up itself. It's spill-proof or spill-resistant in a big way. I've got others sitting on the desk here, too, like this 20 ounce, which is full of coffee. I got another cup of coffee because my wife and I were not on the same page. That's the 20 ounce with the handle. Check out all of the great products that they're making over at Patriot Coolers. If you guys are coffee drinkers, if you are hot or cold beverage drinkers and you want those things to stay hot or cold, check them out and use the promo code Kyle. I've told you about this dozens of times, so nothing new or exciting about it other than if you haven't bought one, when you get your first Patriot Cooler, tumbler, or product, you'll be psyched because they are quite good. Let's bring these gentlemen on. Let's get into today's program. Let's just see how stupid it's gotten. Let's do the real Steve Friend and George Hill panel discussion. I'm bopping my heads, and my gentlemen over there are bopping their heads. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, real Steve Friend.
Good morning. How are you today on this Friendly Friday? Beautiful first day of August. We're out of July. It's exciting times.
It's still freaking 1,000 degrees. I'm doing okay. George, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm great. Today was chest day, and it's a real honor to be on here today with Mr. Sunshine himself, Steve Friend.
I prefer face of the franchise, the Athenian senator.
Okay, who's going to be dishing out the most black pills today if we're going to just do a guess? Steve, I'll give you the first because you're the normal guest on Fridays.
Age before beauty, but also because he's more cynical than I am, I have to say it's George Hill.
Okay, George, do you think you're more cynical than Steve today?
Sadly, yes. That's why he's Mr. Sunshine and the face of the franchise. Okay, Steve, I'm sorry.
All right. I want to cover down on this because this happened this week. You were out of pocket for a couple of days, Steve. Let me go ahead and throw this on the screen. It's my favorite Crypt Keeper. This is the This is the senator from the most senior senator in the history of the world today, or at least the most senior senator that's currently serving. That's Chuck Grassley standing with some people. Steve, can you describe who's in that picture other than you, who is closest to me on the screen?
There's over 4 dozen people in the room. So it was an enormous crowd of people that went in to meet with Chuck Grassley after this whistleblower event that they had all day long. But you got Brad Birkenfeld on the far right, that big guy who's bald with a goatee.
Yep.
He is the most profitable whistleblower ever. I think he's collected over $300 million. He's a UBS guy who turned in all these high rollers who were concealing their taxes overseas. And so he's got 30% of that fine there. Also, you have Joe Ziegler, one of the IRS whistleblowers. I don't know if Gary Shapley is there as well in that picture, but they were together. We got a chance to hang out with those guys. And our feeling on them when they testified, they were super well prepared, but they seemed to be just kind of like regular guys. We were spot on, total bros. Garrett and I went and hung out with them over at the IRS office, which was sort of weird. They're like, hey, you want to come hang out at the IRS with us? And we were like, okay. So we did. But what's going on over there is effectively what the suspendables envisioned happening at the FBI about 5 months ago, where they stood up a team. They made Gary the chief and Joe the deputy chief of this special team. They pulled in people who they wanted, all people who were wronged by the IRS and Treasury. And they just said, like, go tear up stuff and reconstitute it and fix the problems. So it was really cool to get to hang out with them and see what is getting done there. And I believe there were a couple other people that had whistleblowing events in the past there that were from decades past. But I think one of my biggest takeaways from the entire event was we are so siloed into what our own focus is and what our own problems were that we brought forward. And all these people that were being introduced to us and they were telling their background and their stories, you're just kind of like, I don't know anything about you. I've never heard anything of what you did or said before. So I think it's a lonely road. And my takeaway is that I'm grateful that I actually have a friend group of suspendables that have been able to lean on the last couple of years.
Do you see any corrective action for your front or for Garrett's? People were asking if Garrett was there. He was in the room as well, yes?
Yeah, so he cast a big shadow. That's probably why I was a little bit more dim. He was next to me in that picture on the other side.
Yeah, so look, folks, there he is. So Steve's right there, and then he's kind of darkened by the form of Garrett, who's about a foot taller than him.
He creates a solar eclipse in every room that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
So there were conversations behind the scenes between DOJ and attorneys, something along the lines of like a Marcus Allen deal was perhaps on the table. And then there was all this pressure. Hey, we can get it done by whistleblower day so that there can be backslaps and credit given to all the people for this huge ceremony that's going to go on. It wasn't really a ceremony or anything to that effect. It was just sort of like a luncheon where a lot of people talked and we were kind of bored. And we're even
How
featured.
gentle did you have to shake Grassley's hand so you didn't end up with the hand as a souvenir?
I didn't want to create a Thanos snap situation, so I was delicate. But he came in, and I thought it was going to be more intimate as far as the conversation went. But to any sort of deal, I think that's taken a step backwards at this point. I think that there is now an effort afoot amongst former retired agents who got some tasking, as well as other people in media, and we are back to character issues being put out there. And so we'll see if everything just kind of eviscerates Thanos style, or if there's actually a bookend to the trials and tribulations that are one GOB actual.
All right, Steve, there was an announcement by some of the folks on social media that somebody has been restored. We know that somebody. He's not asking to be public. Is that correct?
Yes. Got a chance to meet that somebody. And
let's call him JM. That sounds like a good way to do it.
JM is a good guy. It's a good nom de plume for JM. And JM was an individual who attended Donald Trump's speech on January 6th and then went home and did that on his personal time, using his annual leave as he is allowed to do, and engage in First Amendment protected activity. And despite what Christopher Wray says, the FBI does apparently investigate you that because supporting the president makes you an anti-government extremist in the eyes of the FBI. And as a result, he was run out of the Bureau, out of his career, has had to endure quite a bit. I mean, that speech goes back now over 4 years. And for him to now get a reinstatement, he'll be able to hopefully attain a full retirement here if he rides out his time for the next few years. And, who knows what that is actually going to be able to happen. You're going to be looking over your shoulder no matter what. That would be my strong suspicion. But
yeah.
I'm hopeful for that to happen. Hopefully the change of the administration won't happen before he's able to retire. So it'll be a little bit easier.
So our chat's asking why he would remain anonymous, and I think it's because he's actually going to go back and work for the Bureau. He's not an agent. He's a support staff member, and he was discussed in this clip, which Garrett put out on social media yesterday, and it's a good reminder of what happened to some of these guys, so I'm going to play this real quick.
Is support for President Trump a security concern amongst your employees?
No.
Is objection to the COVID-19 vaccine a security threat?
Not from my perspective.
Who improved what is termed the Trump questionnaire within the FBI that was done by SIIS? Dina Perkins, Jeffrey Ventry were behind it. Who was responsible for that? And did you know that there was a Trump questionnaire out there?
So the document you're asking about is an interview outline that we only recently learned about, and in my view is completely inappropriate. I asked my team to get to the bottom of what happened and to ensure that doesn't happen again, and I've learned that it's not an FBI form, that its use was isolated, that it was created not by an FBI employee, but by an outside contractor, and that individual is no longer affiliated with the FBI. But we are sending what we have found to the Office of Inspector General, and we'll cooperate, of course, with anything they find.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just close with this. We keep hearing about these isolated examples, whether it's Richmond Catholics, this instance. Isn't it a pattern? I yield back.
Generally,
George, what do you think about all that? You watched that exchange happen. Now you've been refreshed.
The culture there is rotten, and it's by design. And they've been steadily over the last 2 decades moving people out who don't comport with the culture that they're trying to create. They do it through their hiring. They do it through their promotion. I had a front seat to all of it, and went through the promotion process that they started. I don't know what year it was, where you had to take an online test and then you had to go for an interview. And then they played lip service. Oh, we want to hire veterans. Yet when I brought it up to James Comey and his staff, I was eviscerated in a room full of colleagues at the FBI Academy. So no, this is by design. The culture is rotted, and it seems to be continuing to head in that direction.
And can I add that that wasn't an isolated incident, because they asked a questionnaire of my coworkers, like the few that I still keep in touch with, revealed that they asked questions about, does Steve support Donald Trump? What was Steve's position on coronavirus and the vaccines? What was Steve's position on January 6th? And that was just standard questions. And the fact that it was aggregated or authored by some contractor who was being paid by the FBI. It wasn't just like an independent contractor came in with ideas.
This dude who came in to ask questions of like people who work there randomly.
So it wasn't an isolated incident. Yet again, Christopher Wray testifying under oath within the last 5 years. So it would seem that that's yet again a perjury charge. And he's like Kyle Seraphin, he who must not be named. We can't say Chris Wray. We got to say James Comey. James Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Obama, Hillary Clinton.
It's interesting in light of what's been going down in the last maybe 48 hours. There's been a discussion about the quote unquote classified annex and the discovery that Kash Patel was apparently dressing like a raccoon and running around in the Hoover building. George, do you want to weigh in on what a classified annex is? And then we're going to hear the Fox News take on it. And then I want both you guys to either confirm or debunk as necessary with your various experiences.
So just to be clear, we are talking about the Durham annex that was not included in the final report. Is that what we're talking about?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. Again, it's another rice cake. Lots of noise, lots of crunch, but no nutrition, no taste. There's really nothing in there that we didn't already know. There's some speculation regarding the connection with the Soros Foundation. What I do find interesting in it, though, is that it brought up some names that I haven't heard in a while. And if you go back, if you go out onto the interweb and do some quick searches, most of those people have lawyered up and their accounts have been locked up and they're being very quiet about things. So apparently it did ruffle some feathers, but I'm sorry. I don't think we'll see anything of it. But I do agree with the Democrats that the process is the punishment. So let's do some punishing.
I want to have you guys weigh in on my commentary yesterday, which is essentially that burn bags are used for things that are classified up to and including secret, no foreign. That's sort of like the top level that I've seen them used at. And then we have shredders for certain more sensitive information. And that burn bags are essentially like classified trash cans. People keep them on their desk, they fill them up, they roll up the bag, and then at some point in time, some lady or guy comes by with a cart and you load up your burn bags, and then theoretically they take them either to an incinerator or one of the pulping machines. Steve, did you have trash cans for things like that when you I'm guessing most of your Indian reservation stuff was not nearly as sensitive.
No, all my stuff on the Indian reservations was unclassified. That wasn't an issue, but I'm familiar with it because I did have a TSSCI clearance, and for a short time I did work on counterterrorism. So your analysis on it being not the highest level, I mean, these are documents that are that you don't even need to be in a skiff to have, right?
Right.
And you can actually have them at your regular cubicle. So it's not the highest level of security. My sort of take on these revelations that they sound so salacious and like you're in a spy movie, right? Like the FBI director has uncovered this. He's investigating these. All right. If indeed Kash Patel is going to investigate these matters, and they need to be adjudicated, and we need to get some answers, we need to have accountability, he should have come in as some sort of a special investigator to investigate this, not be the FBI director. The FBI director doesn't investigate cases. If he is doing that, if he's actually taking his vital time to carry forward an investigation, and who knows who he's surrounding himself with, his team, or is he doing it independently on his own? Is he like, locking himself in his office and putting like Beautiful Mind style, drawing lines, making connections? He's not running the FBI. He's not making the changes that we put him in there to do. If he was more interested in uncovering and exposing the Russia hoax, then he should have taken on a different role and done that. I wouldn't have hated him for that. That's particularly what his claim to fame was, that what brought him to prominence within the MAGA world. But it's certainly not the job of the FBI director.
Okay, so George, before we go to you, because I know you have copious experience with all of this, both creation of documents that have classification marks and destruction of them as well. Kash Patel, this is Kyle's sort of like crappy analogy right now, but Kash Patel going out and tweeting and posting and telling everyone about his discovery of Russiagate stuff, something that has been adjudicated. Most of the statutes of limitations for anything that I imagine they would go after is probably gone. But him going in and honing in on the one thing that he was pretty good on, as Steve said, brought him to prominence in the MAGA world, is like a 40-something-year-old guy who's single, fat, and sweaty, and telling you, during your break at work about how popular he was with the cheerleaders in high school and how he used to throw touchdown passes. I know that rings a bell with Steve. Isn't this like, hey, I know the one thing that people love me for? Do you guys get that in sense too, George?
He's not Al Bundy, is he? Al Bundy made a good living at it. I would prefer if Mr. Patel would steer away from that. Do you want me to go ahead and talk about
yeah, let's do that. And then I want to play you the way that Fox News covered it. There's two very fun things. One is Trey Gowdy. So people, you just kind of mentally prep for hearing Trey Gowdy and what you think about Trey Gowdy's take on it. And then we'll also do the way that they actually reported the story, which I think we're going to be able to punch some holes in. A lot of allegations, a lot of, fake smoke. But George, talk about handling of classified material, if you would, and what you think about discovering a classified annex that was missing pages in a secret room at the Hoover Building. Feel free to be as snarky as you like.
I'm so tired of the drama. I mean, this is all theater for stupid people, and they're buying it, the whole entire thing, and especially MAGA Inc. I worked in a skiff in Boston, but I had squad members that did not work in a skiff. So all of our documents that came across, that were generated, and you really don't want to print too much anyway. Typically, those all went in the shredder because we were in the skiff. Not everything was top secret. In fact, very little of it was top secret. I never kept a burn bag. If I happened to print something off, I would just shred it. Those documents that are sitting in the burn bag are so easy. They came from somewhere. They either came from FBI Net, they came from CyberNet, which is up to secret, or they came from JWIX, which is what everybody else calls it. The FBI calls it SciNet, something else. Yeah, Scion. So they're all easily, they came from one of those networks. They all have watermarks. They came from maybe either some other agency or the FBI. So this is all just theater. You could have a couple of GS11s go through those documents, separate them out, for classification, take a look at where they came from. More than likely, my guess, and that's all it is, they're already in Sentinel in some form or fashion. So this is just a dog and pony show. Oh, look what I found. Like, we're supposed to believe that somehow he's rooting around the Hoover building in the dark of night, looking for false walls and movable bookshelves that he can find something. Look, I'm old. I've been doing this a long time. I'm just sick of this crap. I know what they're doing here. They're playing us. And unfortunately, they're adding to a larger problem, which is they can continue to raise expectations. And when it all comes crashing down, and it'll come crashing down not in years, maybe a year, but more than likely in months or less than a year, the level of disappointment is going to be crushing to some people. They'll be sitting at home doing COVID all over again, sitting in the corner, sucking their thumb and crying that, oh my God, we were left that hang out to dry again.
I think that's where I want to take some of this in a little bit here, because I do want to talk about what the fallout's going to look like when this House of Cards comes down. Steve, you look like you are about to explode.
They're doing Hogan's Alley, ninjas out of the ceilings to the MAGA world, right? The people that are so excited because, if you ask people who are not siloed in this, like the three of us are, and people in our sphere that are concentrating on this all the time, they say like, hey, what's great about the FBI? They're like, well, we got the director we wanted and the deputy director we wanted. And I'm saying like, okay, you drafted a player, but there are draft busts. There are guys that you think are going to be great prospects and they don't wind up delivering for you on the field. But now they're doing the Hogan's Alley, seriously unbelievable things like Murphy doors where people pop out and shoot you in the back of the head. And those are the sorts of stories that we're hearing coming out of the Hoover building right now. And I'm always back to, you found the secret room. Who showed you the secret room? You have 100 level 10 things on your desk every morning. Who put them on your desk? It's the same people that were there during Christopher Wray's time, some of the same people who were there during James Comey's time, because these people are good at really one thing, and that is running the director, running the deputy director in this case, because he's a unique circumstance, like a director coming from the outside, getting distracted from the mission set that we expected them to go in there. And that was to de-weaponize the agency. That was to shift the priorities around, to re-strategize. But instead, they're rooting around and finding secret rooms, which apparently exist in the Hoover building, even though they have a number on the door and they all have keypads and can be accessed by any director who has a need to know everything.
Clearly, they were not properly stored. Was there top secret material in a room that was not certified for storage of top secret material? That seemed to be a big issue at Mar-a-Lago, that we were storing documents in areas where they weren't certified to be stored in. So where's Sec D in all this? Who's looking into that? And was that adjacent to the director's office? Is he responsible for the improper storage of classified material? I mean, come on, we can all play this game all day.
Can we have the FBI maybe conduct a raid of the Hoover building and turn over all this? The funny thing I keep seeing is people
they
going,
have to do an 888.
They have to find evidence. They have to find evidence, Kyle. I'm like, the evidence, as George accurately pointed out earlier, Sentinel, folks, is the record-keeping system that allows you to see anything the FBI has done. And if you have enough, sort of need-to-know access, which would be director-level access or maybe some of the people just below, you should be able to see everything that's been generated. The argument was, well, these were not digitized files. So I'm in the belief system now that the theater we are being sold is that Kash Patel puts on his raccoon mask, goes dumpster diving in secret rooms that exist in the Hoover building full of bags of stuff that was supposed to be burned but curiously was not. And then he's finding evidence that was never put on a government computer. In fact, it was generated with a typewriter. I assume by like maybe a candlelight. That's the kind of stuff you have to believe. Somebody in the dark pecked this thing out, even though it's the classified annex to a very, very well publicized report, which means that the entire USIC probably would have had access to it. George, am I accurate in that?
100%.
Okay.
It's just, it's tiresome. And the sad part about it is so many people are getting all excited about it. I was listening to a radio host today in Boston, like, oh, we got them now. I mean, they're already taking measurements for the size of the orange jumpsuits for everybody. And they just keep on building it up and building it up. At some point in time, it's going to come crashing down, and it's going to hurt a lot of people.
He just gave up a big nugget.
That's what's coming up. the uncomfortable thing. Let's go ahead and do Fox News getting people hyped up. I do think a lot of this is meant for the boomer audience of Fox News. Not to keep bagging on you boomer folks. I'm just telling you, some of your generation is the target of this psyop, information op, this spin cycle, because a lot of people used to watch Bill O'Reilly and the No Spin Zone and believe that was what no spin looked like, even though the man's entire job was spin. So here's Fox News doing what they do.
Special counsel John Durham's investigation into the origins of the Trump-Russia narrative began in 2019, ended 4 years later in 2023. Now, he took two people to trial, lost both times, but he did, Harris, secure a plea deal with a former FBI lawyer. Durham's final report, a 300-page document. Here he is in 2023.
Our findings were sobering. I can tell you, having spent 40 years plus as a federal prosecutor, they were particularly sobering to me.
Now, for the first time, we're seeing this declassified now annex. It's 29 pages. It discusses more allegations and information about the Clinton campaign's alleged efforts to discredit then-candidate Trump. Durham obtained emails via Russian intelligence, and the emails were allegedly written by a man named Leonard with the Open Society Foundation. That's the foundation tied to George Soros. According to the annex, Leonard writes about a Clinton campaign advisor named Julianne. She's also referred to by Julie and Julia. One of the emails says, Julie says it will be a long-term affair to demonize Putin and Trump. Now it is good for a post-convention bounce. Later, the FBI will put more oil into the fire. In another email obtained by Durham, Leonard allegedly wrote, HRC, meaning Hillary Rodham Clinton, approved Julia's idea about Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections. That should distract people from her own missing email, especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level. Now, Mr. Durham interviewed Julie, who told him that she didn't draft or recall receiving any of these Leonard emails. The annex goes on to explain that the FBI was fully alerted to the possibility that at least some of the information it received about the Trump campaign might have origins with the Clinton campaign or Russian disinformation, but the FBI apparently dismissed that information, quote, as not credible without any investigative steps actually having been taken to either corroborate or disprove the allegations.
Oh. Was any of that evidence to your standard, or is that just things that people were summarizing, Steve?
Seems like an investigative summary of things that have been known for a really long time, and there's been lots of books written about, lots of articles written about it over the last almost decade at this point by people that
Who
are
is Julianne? Who is that person? Now we can find out who she is, Steve, and we can crack the code with the Soros connection, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, find the invisible ink that's written on the back of that document in the burn bag, and that will lead to us measuring an orange jumpsuit for Barack Obama because, you know, his tan suit wasn't a good enough scandal. We have to go for the orange jumpsuit.
Outstanding. George, what do you think about what Fox News is reporting there?
All we're witnessing here is the marriage between politics, which has always been a dirty game, and the intelligence community, and with some international actors thrown in for good measure. And it's ugly. But at the end of the day, nobody's going to jail. I'm sorry. What we really should be concerned about is the co-opting of the U.S. intelligence community, along with some of our Five Eye partners. Let's not forget on the Russia hoax that Gina Haspel, who was recommended by Mike Pompeo, who went on to become director of the CIA after Pompeo, worked in London at the whole time that the Russia hoax was being crafted by Christopher Steele in London. So, look, this is just an unholy marriage between the most contemptible people on earth, the intelligence community, and politicians. And when I say the intelligence community, I'm not talking about the four-fifths that come to work and actually try to make a difference. I'm talking about the people that rise to the lofty levels.
Yeah. Can we also just expose or disabuse people of the notion that there's some new whistleblower that exposed this room and the information that was in it because it was Garrett O'Boyle having a conversation in like February with Anna Paulina Luna, and also, by the way, now FBI Director Kash Patel, and telling all the people that needed to know that this was happening, and they just decided to break it now because they want to cover up for Epstein and the sort of PR debacle they've had. Can we come to consensus on that, or am I alone on that?
100%. We're getting worked.
Okay.
You know, well,
Steve?
we're not, you know, and your
No, we're
audience
not.
isn't.
Yeah.
But the majority, MAGA Inc. is totally I mean, I don't even know how they sleep at night with the level of excitement that they're getting exposed to.
It's so exciting. Steve, where are you at with that?
Break glass in case of an emergency. Throw the red meat to the base. And there's nothing more red meat to get off the X and out of the spotlight of the Epstein story, which I mean, we're coming up on like 3 or 4 weeks now since that memo was leaked over the July 4th weekend during the flooding in Texas to Axios so that they could say, we're done here. And they got such a pushback on that. And we're also seeing the next evolution in the PR. And I think we talked about this last week about how when you're in a crisis situation, you lean on what is your strength. So what are the strengths of leadership over at FBI now? It is in content creation. It is in media. It's in public relations. So they're going to lean hard on that. And what have we been getting the last 4 or 5 months is a PR blitz where they say, here's a deliverable, here's a delivery date, and they fail to meet that. So we didn't get the pipe bomb at this specific time. We didn't get the Dobbs leak. We didn't get any further information on Russiagate yet. We didn't get any of the White House cocaine. And now the next evolution, we saw that over the weekend, which created an entire weekend of news cycle leading into this week, was that the deputy director of the FBI said, I am shocked to the core by corruption, NFI, within law enforcement and intelligence, i.e. FBI, because that's what they do. So I'm shocked to the core about corruption, nothing specific and no specific delivery date, but wait 6 to 8 months. Just trust me, bro. And then if anything does come out, he can say, well, that's what I meant all along. So it's pretty clever.
Yes. Leave it to the audience imagination. We're going to do a quick break for one of our sponsors, and then I'm going to come back and show you. You said they leaned on content creation. You guys haven't seen this yet, so if the audience has already seen it, apologies, but it's going to be new to my panel, and we are going to expose that you are accidentally getting tomorrow's news yesterday with the Kyle Seraphin Show, because about a week and a half ago, it was either a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago, Steve Friend and I had this exact discussion about WWE wrestling and how much that is similar to what's going on in the current administration. But before we get over there, let's go ahead and say thanks to my buddies over at Patriot Protect. It's just a good reminder. We're actually going to share with you some information. I'm going to share it verbally. And then at the end of today's show, we're actually going to post it on social media. I may go on with Alex Jones if he wants to do a quick hit, where we're going to expose to you some real wild stuff. And it's going to be about personal data that is accessible on the internet that I was able to find. If you guys want to scrub yours, you want to make sure that the data broker websites out there are not continuing to put your information forward. Check out my buddies at Patriot Protect. The website is patriot-protect.com/KYLE. You guys have seen our sit down with Skip, who's one of the founders of the company. Kind of discusses the fact that it's like a digital camouflage. The idea is you keep yourself out of the pile. You guys remember watching movies like Glengarry, Glenn Ross. Scammers are a lot like salespeople. They're just out there looking for people to go after. If you want to be not one of those people, the easiest way is to not be accessible, to not be easily available. And you guys can get your names off the websites. There's over 100 of them out there. I used to use them when I was in the bureau, when I was sitting out in a car and I was doing surveillance. They're the fastest way to go, and they pop up on Google searches. They pop up on DuckDuckGo and so on and so forth. If you don't want your name, your address, your phone number, your email address, any of your next of kin, the people that are related to you, the ages and where the hell they are around the country, if you want that all kind of scrubbed down, the best way to do it is get yourself removed, and Patriot Protect does that on a regular basis. They're also scanning the dark web in order to make sure that if you have had something that's been compromised, something a little bit more nefarious, like a password or some of your account information, that they can at least let you know what it is so you can move things around and solve that problem. You don't know you're in danger until you actually are. If you want to pay somebody a pretty inexpensive amount of money to monitor that for you, Patriot Protect is the option that we use. Patriot-protect.com/KYLE. You'll save 15% on an annual subscription with my name. And it's like a couple dollars a month at the end of the day. I think it's something like $7 or $8 a month when you guys go check it out. So look into them. Let's go straight into the content creation thing before the guys get to see this. Gentlemen, prepare. Here you go. This came from the White House's official social media feed. I've turned the volume down because I'm sure it's copyrighted. It's some sort of WWE exit music. And there's a very muscular guy who also happens to go by the name Triple H wearing a suit. He has a water bottle that he just drank, showed the cameraman there, and then he blasts a puff of air and water out of his face hole because I don't know what that is. That's apparently really, really neat. What do you guys think about dudes standing in suits and blowing all the water from their water bottle that they threw on the ground?
Donald Trump is nothing if not the P.T. Barnum of our time. So there's an element to that. I mean, look, they had the eagle that was crapping dollar bills last week. And they are probably trying to lean on the Hulk Hogan nostalgia from his passing a week ago as well. I don't know the specificity. Is this sort of like the Arnold Schwarzenegger initiative, like where they're trying to get people to get in shape? Because all it said was the White House. It didn't say like, hey, why don't you go do some push-ups and go run a mile?
Well, I don't know that that's true, but I do know that yesterday I said there was nothing more absurd, that we've reached the peak level of absurdity, that a fat boomer female is one of the most powerful people on the planet, and that is Susie Wiles. Susie Wiles has a lot of problems when it comes to the connections. She is the body of the bat if each wing is a party. We talk about a uniparty. She's the connecting tissue. It's lobbyists like her. It's people that have deals with Al Serco and Julie Kelly's husband, who's a prominent Democrat lobbyist. Like all those kind of shady, swampy people. The fact that she's the person that it sounds like, Steve, you're in a position to say maybe this is the case, might have poo-pooed some of the deals that were on the table for you and the boys getting reinstated. Is that kind of what you're hearing too?
I heard the same thing, and it is because of mean tweets by, not me, but one Garrett O'Boyle, who apparently saying things that are accurate in a way that gives you a bad sense of the feels. We're in an interesting time where the chief of staff for the most powerful human in the history of the planet looks at what our pissant accounts say, apparently, on a social media site that isn't real life, and that can generate such outrage that she would then spike a deal to reinstate a man who was wrongfully, by the FBI's own investigation, removed from duty, unpaid indefinitely for now 1,040 days.
Right.
And that this is America's so back, baby. America, we're based now.
We're so based. George, you had an experience about mean tweets. We were talking about this yesterday. You want to kind of elaborate on how real people think tweets are in our federal government based on your deposition that you had with weaponization?
When I was questioned by the Democrat counsel, Christine, what was her last name, Steve?
Alcee.
Yeah. And she showed up with 2 binders, and all she had were questions about my tweets, not about what Bank of America did, not about sources embedded on January 6th, none of the things that I actually came forward to give testimony about. I missed my whistleblower invitation, by the way, Chuck. So she read through all of my tweets asking about them. And, after about 2 or 3, I said, look, it's First Amendment protected activity. I'm not going to comment on it. But she insisted on going through, spending her entire 4 hours, I think, or 3 hours, going through the binders, asking about each tweet. And my counsel at the time, Jason Foster, said, can we just stipulate that that's going to be the answer for everyone? She's like, no, I'm going to ask. I'm like, okay, fine. Go ahead. If that's how you want to spend your time, sweetheart, go right ahead.
So you had a couple hours of people reading your tweets to you and asking you to explain what you meant in a tweet that I imagine, having read a lot of what you write, is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. And, I might not be the best prose all the time. Sometimes I try to get a little snarky to make a point, or maybe to nudge someone that I want to nudge. But, by and large, it's pretty straightforward. I have the super premium account, but, I'm limited to the number of characters, so I try to be concise. Oftentimes I embed stories.
Hold on. You try to be concise with your tweets. Are you doing the Chuck Grassley thing where you try to use numbers instead of words, and you type with whatever bony knuckles are still attached to your body?
No, you don't use numbers for anything 9 and below. Okay. That's just standard MLA handbook writing.
George, actually, that leads me to why we might be screwed. I guess Steve covered this the other day. I'm going to show this on the screen for those who haven't seen this. My buddy Tracy Beans posted something about this yesterday. This is apparently from a Facebook post. I guess it's a couple days old, so I'm not breaking any news here. But I wonder, since George used to be a college professor and did used to teach the future of the intelligence world, public school grading system. This was a post by a California parent on Facebook, apparently, that the designation A is 84% and above up to 100, and a B is 64% to 84%. A C is 44 to 64% correct. A D is 24% to 44%, and F is below 24%. George, I wonder, one, have you ever used grading rubric like this outside of the engineering world where that actually does make sense, and I can explain it to anybody who's never seen an engineering curve? What on earth is that about? Is that what college has gone towards?
No, I've never used anything like that. And that was one of the reasons I left after 10 years of teaching college, because I had students who couldn't even write at the basic senior level of high school level. And I'm teaching a master's course. And I would complain to the administration that I am not here to be an English professor. I'm here to look at content, and the analysis is being conducted in the class, not to, hey, you've got a comma splice here, or subject verb agreement doesn't, is incorrect, or whatever. And then as AI came online towards the latter half of my 10 years, I was getting papers that were masterfully written. And then when I would engage with the student in a one-on-one conversation, they couldn't even articulate verbally a sentence. They made Kamala Harris look like, like Abraham Lincoln in terms of prose.
A lot of people say that you shouldn't believe everything on the internet, and they attribute that to Abraham Lincoln or Mark Twain. So I think that's probably true. But here's a funny thought that my wife and I had. I just want to ping this. It has nothing to do with anything. But you brought up AI being the way that a lot of people are now communicating. We're hearing that it can be used to streamline things like coding. It obviously can create legal briefs and things that are, how to do subject-verb agreement and string together a reasonable sentence in a particular style that it can actually even mirror, and you can give it, grammatical rules, and it'll feed it back out. Same thing with code. Wouldn't it be interesting to learn that the H-1B visa, quote unquote, crisis that was getting everybody all up in arms ends up being solved by AI, because all the need for those types of people has been decreased when you end up, if AI defeats, let's say, the Indian workforce that comes into America as an H-1B, would that be kind of peak irony? Skynet saves us before it kills us?
Somebody had posted on X about call centers, bringing them here to the United States. I'm like, why bother? Just replace them with AI. That's what's going to happen to the intelligence community. The CIA has a very robust program right now, integrating AI into its analytical protocols. And, and I still have students that reach out to me that I'm believe it or not, they actually like me. I know, shocking. But, if you're a student of mine, I don't care if you reach out to me 10, 15 years later, I'm still going to take the call. And I tell them, you're going to be replaced. You need to think about some other career than writing papers for the intelligence community, because, within the next few years, most of that stuff's going to be AI generated.
That's funny. Steve, you had a smirking reaction. What do you think about AI saving us from H-1B?
Well, look, like, I have this ongoing theory. I've even poked George on this one, and he felt pretty confident about it. I don't know if I've ever thrown it at you, so maybe I'll get your feedback on it. Everything we do, because we're all, including George, we're all children of sort of the 80s, the nostalgia there, the Hulk Hogan, right? Everything goes back to the Terminator, all right? And in the concept of the Terminator, the AI becomes self-aware and goes kinetic and seizes the missile silos and tries to kill all the people. What if AI right now is self-aware and is following a Sun Tzu philosophy of don't interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake? Because the concept of time to AI doesn't mean anything. They live forever. It's not really worried about the fighting season or we have to attack now. Let's just let the idiots be idiots. Maybe, nudge them here and there with our chat GBTs. Like if they ask us, I'm pregnant, what should I do? Murder the baby. And then spit out things that keep people as dumb as possible, or as arguing and pitting themselves to get at each other's throats as much as possible, the Genghis Khan style, the inserting the spies into the city state. And then you just knock at the door eventually one day and they're unable to stand up an army to resist you. Maybe AI is actually playing possum at this point, and we're just kind of doing its work for it.
It's not a dumb situation if AI was waiting us out, because our power grid's not particularly effective. And if they could, if they wanted to seize on, something that was power activated, you might want to have like more nuclear or something like that. So some smart things. We have a really funny chat troll that's going right now that is now alleged that I must be a Russian agent and somehow I'm obsessed with the Jews. So I love it when people pop up. Anybody who thinks that upsets me. I had a guy, he was like, Kyle, why don't you say the things that I want you to say in the way that I like so that I would feel better about how you are talking? It goes back to this funny little thing that when you say stuff that you believe is true and you have evidence to support it, we're going to say something. Stick around to the end of the show, folks. Give us another 15 minutes because I don't want to drop it too early. But we're going to explain to you why we have so little trust in what goes on in the FBI. And it's because their incompetence is constantly revealed to us on a regular basis, including the personnel that are closest to the people that you think are out there saving it. And if you can't trust their motives, no, you just can't trust their competency. Their motives are not in question. But Dan and Cash are not capable of solving the problems that the thing we've got. I want to play you another. This guy is not ChatGPT. That's the ongoing joke, by the way, gentlemen, in the Seraphin household. When we see someone that does something really weird, my wife and I just say that it's AI in real life. Like we're walking around and some lady's like stumbling and doing some illogical action. She's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Oh, that's AI." Like, yeah, you can't believe your eyes anymore. And she goes, "Well, how soon are we going to have sunglasses on that actually videotape everything?" And you go, "AI, like play back the tape," and it plays it back, but it alters it in real time so that you actually don't even have an accurate recollection of history. Since people now constantly are pinging AI for answers and get it wrong.
AI, play it back in a way that suits the way I want to feel.
Yeah, AI, you know what I want to see. Show me what I think I saw. That's what it's going to be. Here's Trey Gowdy telling people that shame might be the answer. It's not going to be prosecutions, but we can always hurt their feelings.
Same pointed questions. Trey?
Yeah, and unfortunately for Brennan, the same allergy to the truth that he has now. He is allergic to the truth. He lied in that part of his testimony, and he lied about whether or not the dossier was used in court filings. The statute's wrong, but to Leslie's point, handcuffs are not the only way we mete out accountability in this culture. There's shame, there's history. It's not just prison. There are other ways we mete out accountability, and the fact that somebody's not wearing handcuffs does not, to me, think that what they did is okay, because it wasn't.
Byron, last word on this. You guys are going to come back later in the show, a couple other topics, but it is...
Gentlemen, can we just use shame? Can we just make them feel bad about themselves? Is that acceptable?
It's hard to believe that person who calls himself a man used to be a prosecutor. I mean, at the end of the trial, after a closing argument, did he say, "Shame on you, bad, 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 don't do that again, young man"? I mean, for Christ's sake, I mean, how did he get to this place in life? I lost all faith in him when he whitewashed the Benghazi attack.
This is the same thing that we saw from the deputy director. We're failing to meet a deliverable, but they will actually say that it's a good thing. Like, look, we gave you the transparency, code word for things you like, things we like, but no accountability on that end. But that's actually fine. That's a good thing, because there's other resolutions here other than holding people accountable. I mean, we can talk about it more. We can have a panel discussion, and we can scratch your belly, scratch the id of the MAGA base, so that you can feel like, yeah, we're exposing these things. And we'll do more exposing after this break, where we talk about reverse mortgages and pocket catheters and the hurricane and the stand-up bathtub. Back to you.
Back to me. How about this? Let's break away for a second and say thanks to the folks at Shield Arms. Steve, thanks for the setup there. Actually, we don't do the lame things like pocket catheters or reverse mortgages. We talk about things like magazines and handgun accessories and increased lethality. You're seeing on the screen there is my friend Mike, product manager from Shield Arms, and they're discussing soft goods, things like chest rigs and high-capacity magazines. When I say high capacity, I mean more than what is normally capable. This is a 15-round magazine that you can put inside a Glock 43X. It's what I carry every single day. It's flush fit in the same platform. Check out those folks. They're making a great product out in Montana, America, out in Big Fork near Kalispell. It's shieldarms.com. The promo code Kyle will save you like 5%. Just go out there and arm yourself, because the next part of today's program is going to be a strong discussion of, I don't know, what's coming next. And I think everything about it means you better take some personal responsibility. It doesn't matter whether your wake-up call was what happened in a Walmart in New York or a office building in Manhattan, or whether it was an El Paso Walmart or wherever else you live. There's dangerous and dumb people doing bad things in the world. You guys should make sure that you prepare yourselves. Again, shieldarms.com, promo code KYLE as usual. George, are you allowed to carry Shield Arms magazines in the commie state you live in?
No,
Okay,
no. Even though I have my, Leosa and, my Utah concealed carry permit, but no. Did you know, Kyle, that you cannot have jacketed hollow point ammunition in New Jersey?
Do you know that I don't believe in New Jersey?
Yeah.
At all.
There's
I don't
that.
even believe it. It's not even real to me. I'm sorry that New Jersey thinks that it's real. It's not to me. New Jersey is the highest tax burden in the country, and has all kinds of illogical thoughts. Like, maybe if we just take all the money from the things. I have to do a correction. The other day I said that the tariffs, if highly successful, will only represent 0.4%. I got a decimal point wrong. 0.4% of the U.S. domestic budget or the government budget. And in fact, it's actually like 4 and change percent. So $300 billion is about 4 and change percent. I started looking into it. Remember, it was supposed to be able to replace the income tax revenue that the United States populace provides, which includes, if you add, it's like 49% of the U.S. budget is paid for by income taxes, another 11% by corporate taxes, and there's another 35% which come from payroll and Medicare and Medicaid taxes, which are also taxes we all pay. So 95% of the United States budget is actually funded by us. The funny part is that 5% is not. I guess we've made up for it in tariffs, so we're in less deficit now. I want to play you guys something that's going to make you very uncomfortable. Are you prepared to be uncomfortable, gentlemen?
I live in uncomfortable. Let's do this.
I'm usually a carrier of uncomfortable, but I'll bite.
Yes. Okay, so we are going to now spread discomfort. I want you to try to tell me what is wrong with this statement by Elizabeth Warren in a press gaggle in the hallway at probably the Rayburn building. And you might have some difficulty with disagreeing with her. And that's not a good feeling. Here we go. Elizabeth Warren on the first half of the first quarter of this first half of the Trump administration 2.0.
Epstein talk about the mega bill. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Donald Trump promised that he would lower costs on day one. It's now 6 months into his administration. The cost of groceries is up. The cost of housing is up. The cost of student loans is up. The cost of utilities is up. And I think we ought to be talking about that with the American people. Republicans are too afraid to have town halls with their own constituents. So Democrats are going to get out there and talk to the people. That's how democracy works.
Epstein talk about the...
That's how democracy works. I noticed some subject-verb disagreement there. And outside of that, George, do you want to comment on any of the things that she called out, costs and so on?
Absolutely. She's my senator, Chief Hiawatha of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I saw her fall on the Senate floor. They had some video of that. I'm glad she's back up on her 2 feet. I don't know if she has a hurricane or not at her side, but she's back in the game. She's laying, throwing some hands out there in the hallway of the Rayburn building. The things that she's saying are factually accurate, but she wasn't concerned about any of those things during the previous administration.
Nope.
Furthermore, she talks about utility prices going up, yet the governor of Massachusetts, Maura Healey, canceled 2 gas pipelines going up into Massachusetts, where our heating and electricity rates have doubled just in the last year. We're seeing people voting with their feet from all these red states. So there's nothing that she said that could withstand 1 minute of scrutiny from any thinking person. And even if they don't think, if they can go out to the interweb and do a couple of clicks, they know that she's, that's why they call her Chief Spreading Bull, because that's what she does, spread bull.
So the funniest thing is that you can be factually accurate, but the motive for your information could be wrong. Just like you could have the proper vote on something, but you could have it for a disingenuous purpose. Steve, I'll let you reflect. And then I'll play you another funny example of that when she was talking about rates in the Federal Reserve, which apparently are going to remain static. So housing will still be expensive. Go ahead.
She needed to have definitely an authentic Indian headdress in order to be spouting that spreading bull sort of stuff she likes to do. But look, it's also back to say the things. She gives us that content so that the Trey Gowdys of the world can then go on to Fox News and be like, can you believe the hypocrisy? That's the favorite thing that the Republican establishment love to do. And let me just say, look, she's a boomer. And if you're watching the Kyle Seraphin show, I'm not talking about you. I don't like Steve Jensen. It's not because it's a Steve thing. I disavow him. It's not the name Steve, okay? All right? Stop getting offended by this. But her generation got us into $40 trillion of debt. And we would pine for the days of Donald Trump coming down the golden escalator talking about the exact same problems that we have now, where we were spending money. We would pine for the spending we had under Barack Obama. It was half of what we're spending now.
Some of you boomers don't even know that you're boomers. And I'm looking at my mother right here, who debated with me whether or not she was a boomer, only to find out, holy crap, I am a boomer. It reminds me of a Thanksgiving we had one time in our house, which is one of the most famous Seraphin family stories, where my mother was talking about the children she was teaching, who were all immigrants. Their parents had immigrated to the United States, so they were like first-generation American kids. My mother was telling them about how Christopher Columbus came over. How the Pilgrims came over. That's why we were celebrating Thanksgiving. So it was the Pilgrims that had come in and landed at Plymouth Rock in the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. And we just asked that one little quick question. Hey, Mom, why were these English Puritans sailing in 3 Spanish ships with an Italian explorer from centuries earlier? What was going on there? My mom is like a smoothie of some fun information, and she always gets mad that we kind of like dunk on her. That it reminds me of a kind of a boomer thing. It's like it doesn't really matter to her. It's like, yeah, Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving.
It resulted in the Trail of Tears, right?
The Trail of Tears. So many, millions of people. It's like you hear people go, millions of people died. Like the libs will do it. They'll be like, millions of people died on the Trail of Tears, and you're like, how many million? And they're like 80, 100. It's not millions at all. I've seen this stuff. Anyway, I love my mother. You know what? I will tell you this because we're going to end with something about kids with our palate cleanser, and she's fantastic with children. So I don't actually care about her knowledge of history. I kind of wish that some of these people. Elizabeth Warren used to know this. Elizabeth Warren actually wrote a book about the 2-income trap, about how women should actually not be working outside the home and that they should be kind of the insurance policy for the entire house, in addition to doing really valuable work, that we had a better society under a single income. And then she immediately was like, well, that doesn't sell Senate vote. We got to go do this other thing we're going to do. Let me just play you some, what'd you call her? Chief what?
Chief Spreading Bull or Chief Liawatha.
I think is the tribe the Liawatha? Is that right?
Yeah, she's from the Liawatha tribe. Yeah.
Okay. So here she is talking about her high principles, folks. This is in 2024 is the first clip, her talking about what should happen and how Jerome Powell should cut rates because Joe Biden needs lower, interest rates in order to stimulate the economy. And then in April of this year, when she no longer cared, it goes exactly to your point about it just matters, who's there, what she's going to talk about.
You waited too long. And the best way you can show that you waited too long and that you get it and that you are becoming more responsive to where we are on interest rates is actually go ahead and do a nice big rate cut. Keep in mind that keeping those rates high, as he has done, keeping those interest rates so high, actually has contributed to our measure of inflation. The infrastructure that keeps this stock market strong and therefore a big part of our economy strong and therefore a big part of the world economy strong is the idea that the big pieces move independent of the politics, that somebody is making her best decisions economically and independently. We understand that if the New York Stock Exchange, if interest rates in the United States are subject to a president who just wants to wave his magic wand, this doesn't distinguish us then from any other 2-bit dictatorship around the world. He waited too long.
All right, so there it is. What do you think? Nailed it.
She's really good at what she does. You got to give credit where credit is due.
I can't listen to her for very long. I can't stand her voice.
But
if she could AI
doing,
that'd be better.
How is what she's doing any different than what we're seeing from MAGA Inc.? Right?
Okay, hold on. Hold that thought, because there's a fantastic story. I'm going to hit you with one funny news story. And the news story is that Josh Hawley is in the hot seat, and he was told that Donald Trump was really pissed off at him. In fact, Trump actually put out a really nasty post about Josh Hawley. And this is exactly what you're talking about, George. Apparently, Josh Hawley put forward a bill that was going to ban stock trades for people who were currently in office. There was a long discussion about what it would involve, and Donald Trump both attacked him on social media and then called him up, and I guess they hashed it out. But he yelled at him because he said, if you get this bill forward, then I have to sell Mar-a-Lago, and screw you, and you're on the Democrats team, and you're a Democrat, and you're not part of MAGA, and you're not one of us. And then he was like, sir, it would actually exempt you. It has nothing to do with you. And we just don't want people to be able to trade stocks when they're in office. And then Trump was like, oh, yeah, that's good. But also, I still want to keep trading my stocks. So don't put that out there. Because we're so back.
It's no different on either side of the aisle. And their bases spend no time engaging in critical thinking or doing just 30 seconds of research on the internet, just like Trump reacted knee-jerk to Josh Hawley's proposed legislation. Steve, what was the word? What was the word that you and Garrett discussed? How we got the worst people in government?
Kleptocracy.
The best thieves.
I'm sorry, a cacistocracy.
Cacistocracy,
Yeah.
and that's where we are. We
sounds
have
racist.
the
What does that word
worst.
mean?
We have chosen the worst, weakest people to lead us, and then we throw all our weight behind them because that's our guy. We're so based. We're back. No, we're not.
No, we're not. When the HOPIUM, go ahead.
Josh Hawley simultaneously pushing forward. He wanted to push it as call it the Pelosi Act because we have to dunk on our opponents. We can't actually do it. He was simultaneously also saying that we should get a tariff rebate, $600 per every American. So the spoiler alert, Josh, the government doesn't earn money. So it would just be taking money from some and giving it to others, which sounds like each according to his ability to each according to his needs, i.e. communism. But it sounds good. It's populism, right?
Well, if we give you money, we're the ones who gave you money. Do you remember the original Batman?
Michael Keaton,
right? And he served alongside Jack Nicholson. And at the end of the movie, the big climax criminal act that was going to happen is there was a huge parade. I should actually have a video of it, but I didn't grab it. I just thought of it now. It's a huge parade, and the Joker brings all these big balloons that are filled with some noxious gas that's going to kill everybody. And how does he lure people into the streets and distract them? He goes running down the middle of whatever it is in Gotham, the main street, and he stands up and he goes, "Who do you love? Who loves you back? Money, 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 hubba, hubba, hubba." And he starts throwing cash to the crowd and he dumps whatever it is. I think at the time it was $1 million or maybe it was $20 million or some amount of money. But he's dumping money on the crowd. And while everyone's picking up the money, then the gas starts falling down and killing everybody off, right? It's the same thing. It's like, don't you need your $600? We're going to give you your own money that you spent because, look, we lost a sponsor over the tariff deal. You know that? Did I tell you this? Like, it made it impossible for one of our sponsors to be able to afford advertising. And so we've lost money. Like at this show, my household has lost a pretty decent income stream, at least temporarily, because of the tariffs. I'm not mad about it. I'm just aware of it and going, yeah, that costs us something. That's our money that they're trying to pay you back with. It's the same thing as them acting like somehow them taking money from you, investing it in nothing, government IOUs for Social Security, and then promising after paying tens of thousands of people in the Social Security Administration who basically just show up and don't take your phone call and won't answer any questions and have broken, shitty websites, those people can turn around and give you back your money at a lower rate of return than a basic market index fund with almost no overhead, and you're supposed to be psyched about it. It's like, we're going to give you more, and we're going to tax it less afterwards. It's like, it was mine to begin with. You're going to give me back my money and then take less of it again?
The big, beautiful
Assholes.
bill allows babies born in the next 4 years to get a one-time $1,000 savings account, which is going to be tied to the stock market. Again, that's taking money from people and giving it to other people, and then also artificially juking the stock market because the government's throwing in $1,000 per person to this thing, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we're great. My 401k is through the roof." It's all artificial. If I want to start a bank account or a stock account for my kid, it's my money. I will. If I want to start one for a kid I don't know, it's my money. I will. But instead, now we're obligated as a country, and people don't think that through. They think like it's free money. I'm just going to take it.
I want to know, George, what happens when all this stuff hits the reality wall, and what would that look like? You had a kind of a discussion with me yesterday about it. I told you to save it and share it with the audience. You're a pretty cynical dude, but you've seen some other countries where things are not good, and so I'm just free. This is your screen. Here you go.
In 2023, David Betts, who's a professor at the King's College Department of War Studies, wrote an article called "Civil War Comes to the West." You can find it online. He's been since out there quite prolifically across the YouTube sphere, being interviewed by some very thoughtful people. And we have been going down this path for decades, and we have been creating expectations, and we're not meeting them. If you look at trust, and I'm summarizing a lot here, but
Sure.
Trust in government is at an all-time low, reaching single digits, and trust is equivalent to credibility. And therefore, government has lost all credibility, which is a key component to civil war, which is not a spasmodic thing. It's actually something that takes place over years. And when that happens, people lose any moral, any inclination, not just to obey the law, but to start operating outside of social norms in order to protect their family, their clan, their neighborhood. And Trump and others have been chumming the water, but eventually the sharks figure out there's no food here. And they either go somewhere else, or if you happen to fall in, you become the food.
Or they bite each other, I guess, is because
yeah,
a feeding frenzy of sharks.
This is not going to end well, and it's probably even a boomer, and I'm one of them. I'm a tail end boomer. Just be upfront about it. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person, but you know, we'll see. We'll see this.
We love some boomers dearly. For those of you who don't know, especially
not Mullins 2 Cooper, who just got taken out of your chat by Eric Jason.
Sorry,
thanks, Eric. You're awesome.
We had a pretty funny troll that was there that was very upset about a lot of things, and
Look,
you know, I just told him he's paying us with engagement. But
real quick, the phrase "rugged individualism" has been squeezed out of our national psyche for decades.
Yeah, they actually will make fun of you if you're like, it sounds like you're talking about bootstrapping. Like everybody knows that's not real. It's like, I don't know. I know a lot of people that sort of use their wit and their grit and their determination, and a lot of people fail doing that as well. But if you have a really good idea and you bring it to market, like how many people do we know that are wildly successful? I know many millionaires. Like I know probably a dozen millionaires that were millionaires under the age of 30 because they were really bright. They saw an opportunity and they struck out. And guess what? They also went without in order to generate that opportunity. They almost always have high degrees of discipline. They have a novel instinct on something that other people are not seeing. And if you don't have that, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you're not going to be one of those people. And so it happens all the time in America. You said something yesterday that is stuck with me, and I'm going to get Steve's response on it. You said credibility in the government is analogous to legitimacy.
That's what I was searching for. I couldn't remember that.
I listened to what you were saying, and you didn't drop it exactly that way, but you said it accurately yesterday to me. Credibility is almost a one-to-one relationship with legitimacy in your governing body. How do you think it goes when credibility is low, as George just described, Steve?
Well, I think that results in the government's going to have to snap back at people who are not going to offer it illegitimacy, right? That's why we have agave, anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremist. And that definition is someone who is a domestic terrorist, according to your government, with a perception of government overreach, negligence, or illegitimacy. Ergo, if they do engage in things that lead us to believe like, hey, what you're doing is not credible. What you're doing is incredible. You're going and looking at burn bags, like trash style at the FBI. Like, that's not believable to me. Oh, so you're questioning our legitimacy. You must be an anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremist. We should pursue you, target you, and even if we don't get ultimate accountability, Trey Gowdy style, and put you in handcuffs, we'll go to our media friends and say that, you're a bad actor, you're a black hat, you've got character issues, and you should be just shunned from society because the government has to be legitimate at all times in order for it to get compliance from the rank and file American who just has a few minutes here and there to try to keep up with the news, but by and large is just trying to get on with their day.
I heard Steve Friend actually injured and maybe even sprained the wrist of our most venerable senator from Iowa. There he is right there. He looks like he's nursing an injury. That lady is holding on to his arm. Who is that lady with the white hair that's there that I don't like?
Jane Kerner.
She is useless. Fat, useless. What did she blow the whistle on? Nothing that mattered? Like some fake thing?
I believe she was an FBI agent and was one of the first.
That in and of itself, hold on, folks. Look at the center of the screen. There's Chuck Grassley right in the middle there. Behind is a woman that is, Steve, what are you, 5'8" like me, 5'7"?
5'8" if I stretch, yeah.
Okay, so 5'8" Steve. This woman is 4 inches shorter, so she's 5'4". She's in the 200 range, 225-ish. She looks like she might eat Chuck Grassley. Am I wrong? Am I wrong about what I'm saying here? She's a fat old lady who used to be an FBI agent, and she's still not that old.
She's a whistleblower advocate as a prior whistleblower who comes from the left.
I like the way that I said it. She's a fat old lady who was an FBI agent that now speaks on behalf of, like, I don't know, but she's unlistenable. I've listened to her podcast. I know she's interviewed you. She's probably really nice to you. I bet you agree on nothing outside of the fact that the FBI is mean.
On political issues, we were probably diametrically opposed. I will say this to Jane's credit, she interviewed me for a very long time and was very angry at me. She had a lot of animosity to me very openly while she was having a conversation with me. And by the end of our interview, she apologized to me on air on her own program, which I've always had a lot of respect for. And that's really been
I would like to respect that, except all it does is point out that she's ignorant and emotional, and she's an ignorant, sleut. So there's no reason for her to have been an FBI agent because she has the inability to control emotions about something she doesn't know about. Again, all of that stuff is like, women in law enforcement in general really they make me very uncomfortable. We're putting more and more of them out there. George, what's the worst case scenario with the sharks chumming the water and finding out that there's no food source? Because I don't think a bunch of lady cops are going to be the thing that keep America in balance. That's just especially because I keep seeing video after video of it not working.
Sharks have to be fed. They're going to go somewhere to get it.
What are you doing every day to make yourself shark proof? Is there something you do?
I don't know. It started today with going to the gym, and today was chest day for almost 2 hours. So,
are you going to be able to?
Does that count?
Someone?
That's a humble brag.
Humble bragged.
Well, I don't do
George,
humble.
You're still walking.
I was a Marine for 13 years. We don't do humble. It's just not part of our lexicon.
But you're still walking with the plate carrier. How old are you, George? I don't
mind saying. I turned 67 this month. I'm a Leo.
Okay, you're 67. I actually thought you were 60. So you're 67 and you're still rolling out with a plate carrier and marching around are you doing that in the Boston area too?
No, I do it in the Boston area, but I like doing it up in New Hampshire because there's hills.
Yeah.
So I try to keep a 4 mile an hour pace with level 4 plates and a plate carrier, and you try to do at least 5 miles. And you don't have to fall apart when you get older. You don't have to be in what you call the 200. You don't have to be a 200.
Deuce and a quarter.
Yeah, she's not fit, that lady. The fact is that if you're not doing, like, there's all kinds of survival tools and kit and gear that you can go out and buy, but the most important thing, and it costs you almost nothing, is fitness. And people who move towards retirement age that don't do fitness, and like, there's a reason why the plagues and the flus and all the viruses that come in, they call the oldest and the youngest, because those are the people that have the least ability to, some of them have the most naive immune system, and some of them have the least ability to take care of themselves physically. And apparently they don't even take care of themselves like on the things that they could do, which is like just walk around with a little plate carrier on. My dad still is like, my dad's 75 and he's like rolling out with a chainsaw and spending 8 hours in the desert. He just thought it was a good idea to pick up every rock on his 2-acre property. Every rock. I'm not exaggerating. Steve knows I'm being serious. He picked up every flipping stone that he found that was like the size of a golf ball or bigger. And he moved
The looks I get in Massachusetts when taking the plate carrier out for a walk are priceless.
Well, that's worth the price of admission alone. Like, that is, what is her name? Chief Spreading Bulls?
Spreading Bull. Yeah, Chief Spreading Bull.
All of this stuff, I think, is just a reminder of people how bad it is. And here's my evidence. I'm going to share this with you folks, and Steve is going to validate it in a second here. I told you yesterday, the man that is flying the plane that the FBI director uses, we're going to call it Kash Patel's plane. It's a Gulfstream 550. The Gulfstream 550 pilot is an FBI agent, one of the pilots, because they have more than one, but one of the pilots is a guy named Chris Meyer. And Chris Meyer was the case agent who worked the Mar-a-Lago case against Donald Trump on behalf of Jack Smith. He was working at CR-15 in the NVRA. For those of you FBI people that listen to me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's one RA of the Washington field office. It's out in Manassas. We verified that Chris Meyer is not just a former CR-15 member. I've had both current and former FBI employees confirm his bureau official name, which is a thing. His middle initial is M, just like it's listed on his FAA certification that shows his type certification and the types of aircrafts he can fly, which include that Gulfstream. And he lives near the airport and near the RA where he's alleged to have worked. And when I looked up his property taxes, Steve, his name is redacted, as is allowed under Virginia law for law enforcement officers. So the fact that I know who he is in advance and I go look him up and find out that he's withdrawn his name makes sense for someone who worked on the issues that are so politically hot as he did. He managed to escape out right when the Trump administration came in, became a pilot, and now he works over at CERG. Go ahead and tell some of the validations you have on that. I'm telling you, folks, Kash Patel is being shuttled around by the guy who actually received and processed the search warrant of Donald Trump's house. That's how out to lunch the people are that are running our government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a member of CERG, Critical Incident Response Group. Had multiple people able to verify that and verify his bureau name, which does include that middle initial, and cross-reference it with his FAA license. And you're saying his tax documents would be obscured. And look, that's normal even for anybody in law enforcement. If you're just a local cop, depending on your jurisdiction, like where I live, if you're a local sheriff's deputy, you can go on down to the tax collector and say, look, I want my name to be.
You have to ask for it, though.
Yeah, and you just fill out a document and verify your identity and show them your credentials, and it's pretty easy. And they get it done within hours here. But that to me is a plethora of evidence that would indicate to me that this guy is, in fact, who we believe it is. And now we have a guy who's flying the jet for the FBI director, who's rooting around through burn bags to expose the Russia hoax, and simultaneously allowing this guy to be in his proximity, to be in control of where his travel is going. And this was the guy who was chief among one of the worst abuses of power that we saw during the last administration, where we sent armed agents to a president's house, a former president at the time, when a simple consent search would have sufficed. And that's according to Stephen D'Antuono, who's not even another Steve, disavow.
Yep.
And
that's Steve D'Antuono, who agrees with us that a consent search would have been the right way to go after a former president if you were going to investigate that person at all, for a thing that was essentially a documents, disagreement between the National Archives and something that every president has. Steve D'Antuono said that. And so who is sitting in the job of Steve D'Antuono today?
Steve Jensen?
Steve Jensen, the J6 warlord, who they didn't even probably realize did the job that he did, because the men who run the FBI, when they started moving people around at the beginning of their administration, didn't have anyone to advise them that a section chief at the Domestic Terrorism Operations Section is in fact the dude that decided that all J6ers were terrorists. And that
but
was
then
the
they
way
went
they
out and
after.
defended Jensen, though, right?
Of course they
Rather
did.
than say, you know what, we made a mistake, they went out and quite aggressively defended him. And then followed it up with 6 to 8 weeks.
Which we have been waiting for the reason why Steve Jensen was promoted. And I guess they just decided the audience has moved on, because now we're finding partially incomplete documents in the trash.
But here's the thing, Kyle.
Get excited.
People still believe in this administration running the FBI. They've made no substantive changes at all, regardless of the pipe bomb or the coke in the White House or January 6th or any of that. They haven't changed any personnel. They still have a robust intelligence program, and they have adopted the moniker that Intel drives operations, which is a military moniker. That is not something that a law enforcement agency should be abiding by. They've made no changes. They haven't turned the FBI headquarters into a museum. In fact, they're building a palace larger than the Pentagon. So the base still supports these people without question, and yet they've made no changes, and in fact, they're doubling down on bad policy. Great. This will work out just fine.
Do you have an estimate on our TikTok timeline? Not that people should lawyer up, that people should actually play carrier up and make sure they have that option. What
Within
does that
2
look like?
years, before the midterms.
All right. So before the fourth quarter ends, which is the 18 months from now. Steve, friend, I'm gonna give you last word, and then I'll give George his last word, and then and then we'll say thanks for everyone for watching, and I'll encourage you guys to watch our story about Barry Ramey. He's going to be on the Sunday sit down. He was a J6er that involved himself in a degree of violence and actually took responsibility for it, which is kind of interesting to hear. He's a kind of interesting dude. I think you guys will like that. So that's coming up on Sunday. Folks who are subscribers on Locals will get it on Saturday. Steve, friend, last words, final thoughts.
Shameless self-promotion for my last thought. Join us tomorrow for the American Radicals podcast, Saturday grab bag edition. We missed Thursday. I got a lot to catch up on. It's going to be a whole bunch of different things, maybe an after-action review of going to the Ivory City in Washington, D.C. We'll talk about how we're arresting cops who are illegal aliens and outlawing styrofoam and giving people ability to report on their neighbors for using styrofoam in certain communist areas. Caution, George, it might be coming to the Communist People's Republic of Massachusetts soon. So join us tomorrow on the American Radicals podcast, rumble.com/amradpod, 10:30 Eastern time.
George, I'm going to give you final thoughts. You can black pill, you can white pill, or you could little blue pill, whatever makes you excited. Go for it.
Two things real quick.
Mhm.
Let's bring back rugged individualism and stop choosing our fighter like it's a WWE match. And number two, I got some heat regarding my stance on whistleblowers. Without congressional oversight that results in action and changes, being a whistleblower, you're voluntarily taking on self-harm. If you find something that runs against your moral compass, you're probably better off quietly leaving and finding some other way to correct what you have seen. Because if you're going to go to Congress and expect for them to have your six, in most cases, it's not going to happen. Tell me I'm wrong, Steve.
Fact check true. Fact check true. And no greater evidence than our buddy Jim Jordan, who has not had any contact with us since May 18th, 2023.
Useless. Awesome. All right, gents, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate the insight, and thanks for spending some time with me this morning. Look forward to checking in on you a little bit later. Have a fantastic morning. Let's go ahead and remind folks that you can see us. What happened to my camera? Where's it going? Someone is controlling my camera and making it go away. Stand by, y'all. We're going to fix this right now. Boop. There it is. You can find us over on rumble.com/@KyleSerafin, or you can find us on YouTube @KyleSerafin as well. We're on X every morning @KyleSerafin. I will be dropping some receipts on that claim that I made about Christopher Meyer, the pilot. We will show what I can. I'm going to redact his personal information, so we're not going to show his address. Check that out over on social media, and we'll try to make that a bigger showing. If you want to share the show with somebody, KyleSerafinShow.com. You're going to hear some ads on Spotify or any of the audio after effects. We are getting paid for those, so I do appreciate you guys being pretty chill about that. Let's do something that reminds me of good stuff. The reason why we're in this game in the first place, at least some of us are. So I will now give you a little taste of something positive. This is the guy who has the movie that's called, he did Better Call Saul. I can't remember the actor's name, but it reminded me how good we have it for those of us that are parents. And for those of you that were parents, you can remember these times as well, talking about having kids and what your real mission is, which is actually kind of in line with what George and I just talked about.
Who are you jealous of?
Anybody who's still got little kids at home growing up.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no question I knew what I was doing when I had kids growing up.
Yeah.
I was being a dad. I mean, that was my job. And I didn't have to ask myself, what am I doing here? What am I doing? How can I be a part of this world? How can I be meaningful today?
Yeah.
I didn't have to ask that question because the answer is pick up everything between here and the door.
Yeah, that's right.
And make sure they get to school and have a laugh with them.
Yeah.
And, you know, life was, I understood my purpose.
Best answer.
Really straightforward stuff, I suppose. We all have a purpose on this earth. And if your purpose is protecting younger, weaker, more vulnerable people than yourself, then that makes it really easy. For the men that are listening, you understand that. For the women, find somebody that's going to do that for you. We really appreciate you guys listening, and I hope that you will share the show. Say God bless you. I mean that very sincerely. I look forward to seeing you guys on the Sunday Sit Down. Have a fantastic rest of your Friday or whenever you're listening to this.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Seraphin.